I'm Hikey Bikey, and this is my DIY bike rack. Now, I spent a lot of time researching options for bike storage. I have a bunch of bikes. I have a bunch for myself, my girlfriend, family, and so on. And it's tough to store them in a garage or in the house. I always find it's a little bit more secure to store your bikes in the house when it's off season. So fat bikes go inside during the summer, and summer bikes go inside during the winter, kind of switch it up that way. But I also like having access to my bikes in a way that's really convenient, a way that I can get them in and out. And this is the solution I've come up with. I think all in to store 6 bikes, I'm at sub $100. And when I was looking at other solutions online, everything was somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 a bike. Now, you could just go all the way cheap and get some of those self-tapping hooks and just push them right into your particle board or run a couple of 2x4s across. But I thought I would do something a little bit more crafty. So we'll get in tight, we'll take a look at what I created, and then we'll walk through the process of putting it all together. So to put the bike in, get her up on the back tire, and just drive it in. I've got a dowel, and that dowel will just go right through where the spokes are. And there you go. When you need to access a bike, you can move them off to the side either way to give yourself a little bit more room to pull the bike off the wall. So this one is an example of a holder that you could use for a fat bike or you could use for a regular bike. What I did was create the actual bike holder 5 inches apart, and I added an additional 2x6 in the middle that I can remove anytime I want, so that I could put a fat bike here, or I can just insert this 2x6 and put a regular size bike tire. So it's a little bit more complicated and has a little bit more hardware, but it's pretty simple. It's still effectively the exact same holes drilled right through it, but there's a couple of bolts and wing nuts so that I can remove this 2x6 and make it wider to accommodate a fat bike. Now this particular holder is just set up for a regular bike. It's got about 3 inches in between the two 2x6s, and this dowel, again, just sneaks right through, holds the bike tire in place. It's really simple. I had to create some supports to hold this 2x6 to the 2x4s. So this supports here, I can get into a little bit more detail when I'm putting it together, but they just are there, and they're screws drilled through this support into this 2x6 to hold it all together. And then this little, I guess this is a 2x3 is banged into this 2x4 that's on the wall. So to get a little bit more up close and personal, I had to pre-drill a pilot hole here in order to bang this particular piece of wood into the wall. And then it's got a couple of other fasteners going through this block into this one to hold it all together, and it's pretty rock solid with both of these supports there. Now it's a little cheesy, but I didn't want the dowel to fall through, so I just fired a screw through it, and that'll just hold it in place. Nothing too fancy. Again, just a little bit of wood, a little bit of ingenuity, and you can make it yourself. Now, I'm sorry for the poor lighting, but something to consider is that when you pre-drill and pilot these holes, if you set them up 4 centimeters kind of on center away from the edge, they'll be great for every bike, but they will not work with a fat bike. Fat bike tires are way too beefy. I ended up having to drill extra holes to accommodate the fat bike pretty much at the edge of the 2x6. So 2x6 will work no problem. You just have to be a little bit careful with your hole drilling. Now, in order to figure out how tall you're going to want to make this, you're going to need to bring your bike up to the wall and get your pen out, make some marks. It'll be perfect for capturing the front tire of this bike. You want to make sure that you measure your tallest bike and your shortest bike. Always make sure you wear appropriate footwear for when you're doing woodwork. These are actually safety shoes. And never forget eye protection. Next step, we're going to bang in some of these supports. One on the top and one on the bottom. That's part 1. Always make sure you check your work. Perfect. Now, because of the gap in between the two 2x6s, I cannot mount this flat like this. It must be mounted like this against the wall so that I could put a screw through here into my 2x6. Unfortunately, with the spacing, it just doesn't work any other way. So I'm going to use the drill and a drill bit to drill a little bit of a hole here so that I can put my screw about 2 or 3 inches deep into it. So the screw is now about 1.5 inches deep in there, so it will make contact with the board behind it. Perfect. Now I'm going to bore a hole just a little bit bigger than 3/4 inches. Centimeters from the top. There we go. And there you go. That is a DIY bike rack. And the entire thing I think will cost less than $50.